What's going on, world? It's your boy at Big Game James _36, and this is hurricane season. Got to work, got to do something. So we got a fake hurricane coming over here to the Jacksonville area. But shout out to my guys in the Big Bend area. It actually, I ain't gonna hold you as a Florida boy. Hurricane, if it ain't, I always tell my family if it ain't a Category 4 or better, don't holler at me. But I also grew up in Tallahassee where we didn't get hit by a lot, and right now it actually is headed that way. So I ain't gonna hold you. I might have to work more so I keep my mind off of my mama and my grandmama right now. So but sometimes life looks like a hurricane just hit you. Sometimes it's your favorite organizations and your favorite teams that look like a hurricane has literally ran right through them. And I have lived in Jacksonville for 17 years. I have covered the JAGs in some capacity for the last 10. And most of the time that I've covered them, they stink. Outside of a bright spot in 2017, and then I believe it was 2021, we had another bright spot. Outside of that, it's been a lot of miserableness. And right now, with this football season, I've got a couple teams that I pseudo cover. JAGs is I'm a beat writer technically, or I'm on the beat for the JAGs. I am not on the beat for the Noles, but I'm alumni, and it pains me to see them look like a hurricane has actually ran through them as well. So Saturday and Sunday, I see a lot of the same exact football, ineptitude. And we have gotten more JAGs coverage on this thanks to the guy who I'm about to bring up here. I have told people that I would try to do more JAG stuff, but I figured we did something, me, him, and T-Wig, I believe it was it might have been in May. I know I was out of the country when we did it, and it worked really, really well. But he does a very good job a couple times a week with his breakdown of the Jazz coverage, and that's my guy with Big Cat Country, Travis Holmes, who also won. Before we get into it, congratulations to your alma mater. They seem to be doing pretty good. Hopefully, they can do the Lord's work consecutive weeks. I'd appreciate it if they beat Colorado. Not because I hate Deion, because anybody who follows me understands why I hate Deion. It has nothing to do with Deion, the coach. It has everything to do with fraternal things. But I like Colorado losing. But I also need you to really do the Lord's work next week. If I will be one of the official out the charter for the whatever we need to do to get UCF officially added into the Big Three if they eliminate one of the members of the Big Three, and they have a great opportunity next week in the swamp to take care of business, because nothing brings me more pleasure in life than seeing the University of Florida lose. So what's going on, brother?
Lord, bro. If we don't rush for 300 in one of these two games, I quit. But it's got to be there. That's what I'm thinking about, man. I'm trying my best. I'm pulling in all the favors. I'm chipping. I'm throwing in all the chips to try my best to get on that sideline for this Colorado game. I'm still waiting on an answer though. But yeah, I'm here for it.
I'm gonna tell you how big this game is. So every school in the state of Florida does coaches. There's a coaches list, and one of our coaches at Mandarin put in like a while ago for his coaches list tickets. Hasn't got any response, and I'm like, brother, it ain't happening. He got it now. They sold those tickets, man. The bounce house is gonna be bumping.
Well, normally, if I'm able to get a ticket, it's gonna be because it's one of the recruiting tickets. If I'm able to get in on, like it's never it's either a yes or no. Either I'm in and I'm on the sidelines, or I'm not in at all. Like that's always the break. So when I say I'm fingers crossed on this one, that's what it's gonna be.
All right. Well, we had work that happened on Monday.
Yeah.
The NFL is built around being average. So because there's a condensed amount of talent, like all you need to do, most teams are going to win between 7 and 9 games. That puts you 7 and 10, right. 9 and 8. If you win 10, you're in. Like without any hesitation. You win 9, you might get in. But if you win 10, more than likely you'll be in the playoffs. If you win 11, you'll probably be having a home playoff game, more than likely getting a bye.
Yeah.
If you're below 7, that's when you get an opportunity to pick pretty high. I say that because the gameplay should be relative to that. That's why you see most of the game scores are -3 or +3. And if you really feel like there's a blowout, they'll go ahead and give you 7 or 10 points. But very rarely do you see an ass whooping of this nature. To quote Donald Trump and a lot of conservatives, in Buffalo, we have major problems. They're eating cats. They're eating animals. And it just looked like Buffalo made us look like a 20-piece lemon pepper wet, extra wet wing basket with some ranch. So, like, what were your overall thoughts on this game, and like, what the hell happened?
First thing I thought, I'm telling you, my live, me looking at the game, immediate reactions was, dang, they must have quit on this guy. Like, and that's before that's before rewatching the game. That's before anything else. Just my knee-jerk reaction. Like, I already thought the Jaguars were going to lose the game just because I thought Buffalo simply had way less questions as far as the roster to roster. But just looking at the initial just view of the tape, view of the film, view of what we're looking at on the TV screen, just like you guys. Oh man, they don't seem to be fighting for him. They don't seem to be working for him. But cool. And then after rewatching the game, I'm like, all right, so it was less where guys just gave up and more of a mixture of a lot of things. So I wanted to get into that if you just want to give me that second.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so most of the times we see that this team faces against, like to your point, the NFL is a parity-driven league. Most of the times when we see these better teams, that I won't even say it's the top tier of teams, but some of those teams that's maybe the top quarter of the league, whether that's Detroit Lions, whether that's the Chiefs, whether that's in this case Buffalo. The vast majority of the times we've seen that under this Doug Peterson team, it's been rough games, rough losses, unless you have one of those late game comebacks. Maybe the Baltimore Ravens, maybe the Dallas Cowboys, things of that nature. For the most part, we've seen a lot of teams take big leads on this team, and if we get lucky enough, 2022, they're able to come back late in the game when they kind of get off script, when they're doing hurry-up offense from the line of scrimmage, things of that nature, not running the regular game plan. But if you're saying team against team, roster against roster, these other teams have been dominating, and it's been pretty consistent. We saw a mix of that on Monday, and I want to be real and say that. Like that Buffalo team is absolutely top to bottom a better team, a better built team than this Jaguars roster. Yes, they're also a better coach team than this Jaguars roster. I think that's clear. And anybody who's saying otherwise at this point, I don't know what team you've been watching. You ain't been paying attention. The team that leads the NFL in drops is the team that also just can't seem to get out of their way. They're struggling in third downs. They're struggling in red zone. I mean, we can go down a list of these things, and that's outside of roster management. That's just things that have been consistent no matter what team you're looking at. That's 2022, 2023, and this year. So all that together, it just became a buzzsaw when you're talking about missing your top 2 defensive backs and losing the third one in the first series of the game. They couldn't do anything. When they played man, they weren't playing man well. When they played zone, he was ripping them up. Those are the 2 main options you got available, man or zone. And it don't matter which one you pick because he's still beating you. But overall, the defense couldn't stop anybody. The deep pass rush wasn't getting any real pressure. And on offense, you have the same issues you've been having since, I don't know, week 10, week 11 of last year. They just can't find themselves. So across the board, the Jaguars have a boatload of questions, and they all got answered on Monday. And the answer was, hell no, no. Like, whatever you're doing, it ain't working. So that's where we are. I don't know that the team necessarily is giving up on them, but we might be. If they weren't, they might be there now. Like, this might be it because you don't seem to have the answers, and I don't know where they go from there.
And that's the more concerning thing is that nobody's got the answers, and Shad Khan has put a lot of energy, a lot of money, a lot of resources into trying to make this team a winner. Over the last few years, whether it be getting Urban Meyer in and really trying to like revitalize that, and you got the coach that everybody said that you had to have, and that didn't work. You went and you fired him after a year. Obviously, it wasn't working. You got rid of him. So you go in, you bring in a Super Bowl champion coach that, for lack of a better term, actually got ran out of the city that won him the Super Bowl. And there's been question marks with that. Now, he made changes in the offseason that I'm not going to overly critique him for making those changes, but I mean, he addressed the defense, and you brought in a guy who's supposed to be a guy who's aggressive, a guy who can force teams to turn the ball over, a guy who can fix your woes. But it seems like those woes got superset. But I don't want to blame it all on him, because sometimes it's just about the ingredients that you have. Right. And there's a guy that I've never liked, and I still don't understand why he has a job. And one of the biggest problems I think the Jaguars has had is they have never once, ever just clean house entirely. Yep. And it may be time for that, to clean house. And I don't mean just throw everything in the trash. I'm talking about a real good, pull everything out of the home. Rugs, carpet, like you got to you got to bleach that bad boy, like good, strong bleach. I think that's the only way you can get rid of stench, and because the stench to me is bulky. And I know I had some people talking. I was in the clubhouse space yesterday. They're like, "Well, why would you get rid of him? What about the coaches? He's got good pieces." If you have a defensive coach that wants to run man, right? Yep. We need to have a bunch of guys that can run man. And that means you have hips. That means you can run. And in today's leagues, you need to have length. Now, if you're only 3 deep at DB, we got big issues. In a passing league, you need to be more than 3 deep. You need to have guys that can rush the passer. Now, anybody who listens to me in my show, and we bring a lot of humor to things, but it's a lot of realism. I don't trust any man who has 2 last names. That is a female trait. Women are confused. They get hyphenated last names. Men, your last name is one. Pick one and roll with it. When I knew Josh Allen was going to have issues was when he decided that he wanted to go from having 1 last name to 2 last names. And now there's confusion in the locker room. Everybody yelled at me because I asked, why do we – now, he's a big – some bitch. Now, I met him at the Super Bowl last year. Trayvon Walker's a good player. I don't know why you drafted him number 1, though. You don't draft a guy number 1 that might be able to do some of the things you want. You draft a guy number 1 that you know can do all of the things that you want him to do. It's kind of like when they did that song boy, whatever his name is, the sack guru, that ain't had no sacks. Like, you don't draft guys as projects. These are supposed to be starters. These are supposed to be guys that you're going to get pressure. Right. So you don't have a pass rush. You don't have guys. You're not deep enough to have guys that can defend the pass. And then you go and you play against one of the more prolific quarterbacks in the league. And that's wherein lies the problem with me, is that it's just like you're just you ever seen somebody that just goes and buys all name brand groceries but don't know how to cook? I feel like he just says that this is a shiny toy. I'm going to buy it, but it doesn't fit. One of the quotes I used, it's like I want a good quality steak, right?
Okay.
You go to Three Forks, you go to Cowford. That's where you go to get a quality steak. But we got a hibachi chef that don't know what to do with that with Kobe beef. He don't know how to do that. We got a hibachi chef that they trying to make that they buying gourmet food with when we need to go buy some sirloin. Buy what they know how to cook. That would be my thought process on it.
Well, I mean, you got a defense that, to your point, if you like you said, if you're only 3 deep, then you ain't deep enough. And that was the problem at the start of the offseason when all the fans, everybody in the media was all clamoring for a cornerback in the draft, and they went to clamoring for a cornerback in free agency, whether a trade, whatever, Lattimore, whoever it would have ended up being. And the team said, nah, man, we like the guys that we have. And I respect that. If you claim to be a draft and develop team, then hopefully they develop. And to that point, Montaric Brown has developed some. I think he is absolutely much better in his press man defense that they're trying to run. But he still is not like the guy. He's still not going to be someone who's going to truly be able to step in for a Tyson Campbell. Like, come on, I think that's a very high bar to put on anybody's shoulders, and I don't think that's even a fair comparison to try to make. But nevertheless, you're down that kind of guy. You're down Darnell Savage. And again, to your point, you're going against one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the league. Worst case, you're going to have to say he's top 3. That's not a good situation for and again, for a coach who wants to run man, who's historically going to run man if he has an option, and you ain't got the dogs to do it. So that's a different situation. I want to be clear in saying that this week is a little bit different because you're running into a buzzsaw with one hand. At best case scenario, and there's nothing you can do. Like I said earlier, you can't play man, you can't play zone. What can you play? No matter what you call, you kind of probably gonna be done as far as that's concerned. And I don't like. I feel bad for him even after rewatching the game because again, I'm just looking at it like, you know what, damn, what you gonna do? And even when you call the right plays, you're the guys you put in those positions simply aren't making the plays. Like on the Keon Coleman touchdown, shout out FSU. I'm not a fan. I don't even like y'all, but hey, I like Keon, so I'm gonna give him all the props on that. His touchdown was actually a good defensive play call. I mean, Antonio Johnson didn't even make a decision on which one of the receivers to help out on. He was the midfield safety on the play, but Monteric Brown lines up in bump and run coverage and don't get a hand on Keon off the line of scrimmage. What do you do about that as a coach? Like, you obviously taught him to jam the receiver at the line of scrimmage when you lined up in press man coverage, and he just doesn't get a hand on the guy, gives him a free release, and he's beating him to a spot. Well, dang, you're going to lose every time with that, especially with Josh Allen. That man's accurate, and he puts it in the right spot, and it's a touchdown. And you saw plays like that over and over and over again, and that's coaching, sure, you might say that, but at the end of the day, that's just not having the dogs, man. Like anybody else, and they're gonna be in the right position. They're gonna have the speed to keep up with it, and it is what it is. But that's what the game looked like on defense. So it's kind of hard to be super critical of them, other than being critical of the plan that they had. Like the fact that you said Josh Allen ain't been nowhere to be found. Trevon Walker, he's been he's been a ghost. I mean, he's a project that we knew was gonna be a project, but again, he's a project for your number 1 pick, so we're gonna have to judge him like a number 1 pick, and he has not been showing up. That sucks. And you also traded away Gibson earlier in the offseason because you thought you were good at defensive end, so you can play Armstead at end, and honestly, Armstead's been. Woo! I mean, if I'm saying Trevon Walker's absent, I don't even know what to categorize Armstead is right now.
I forgot we had him.
They've been playing him at end, and he's better on the inside. Honestly, Trevon Walker's probably better on the inside if we're gonna keep it 100. But they're not playing him there, so we're gonna have to judge him where he's at. And it's just not working, bro. They obviously need another edge. They don't have it. Maybe they'll get one if they can get a win and and maybe kind of like redo this thing. But I don't know. Again, the whole plan seems dumb when you're watching it in action, and it's all seemed obvious to all of us watching it. It's a car accident happened in slow motion, and we're all just like, dude, obviously you got to turn. Obviously, you tell me you're going to turn the wheel, and they just don't do it. And this is kind of the result. We got 0-3. We on the edge of 0-4, and I feel bad for all the fans of the team because I am one, and I know how pissed off I've been all week, and I'm finally getting to the point where I'm looking towards Houston because we're on Wednesday, and that's kind of when you got to flip that switch. I'm here. But I understand people still being pissed off because you kind of should be. You kind of should have been pissed off the last 3 weeks.
I mean, yeah. And Houston's coming off of a disappointing loss. CJ Stroud's got amazing footwork, amazing patience in the pocket. And to be honest with you, they have more dynamic wide receivers than what we just faced. And that's the scary part.
Yeah.
And, we'll get to that. I have my guy.
We will have Savage back. Peterson did say that earlier today, so that's one more dog in the room that maybe will be able to play a little bit better coverage or a little bit more options. So that's one thing at least. Now,
here's something that we can both do, and I don't like when a lot of people do this on podcasts or on radio shows. And if I were, I'd probably be fired to this week because I would have probably been very critical. I was very critical of this one player. Like, have you ever had any? Did you have any injuries when you played football?
All the time. Yeah.
All the time. It's a sport that you never play fully healthy. The only time you're healthy is in the off season.
Correct.
Any kind of what was like an injury that you had during the season that you had to play through?
my high ankle sprain my senior year. They ended up moving me to safety because I couldn't finish the game half the time, and they were just like, "All right, you obviously can't be doing all these breaks backwards and forwards, so we're gonna put you at safety. So you just want, mainly one direction."
High ankle sprain. That's a tough one, right? That's painful.
Yeah. They had to shoot me up for the whole end of the second half of the season just to finish the season out.
I've had that before. I played with a broken hand, all kinds of different things.
See, y'all big. See, now, so I'm saying y'all big guys. Y'all got all the. I'm finesse. I'm a little dude. I mean, a big injury for me is a high ankle sprain. You talking about broken hands? I'm like, I'm staying home.
Pain tolerance, you'd be all right. It's one of those things, but what I'm gonna say is this, and I don't like questioning heart, but when I saw this, I was disheartened.
Okay.
Plantar fasciitis, man.
Oh.
That stinks. It hurts. It's inflammation, man. It's fucking inflammation. Like, there's no way around it. That's what plantar fasciitis is. It's inflammation in your foot.
I have plantar fasciitis though. I've had it since college. It's never kept me out of a game, so I don't want to like clown anybody for having it because I don't know what that feels like for you. Maybe it feels differently than what I had going on. But from me, it's something I still deal with like all the time. Like I step off a curb wrong and I'd be like, oh damn, like I'm in a walking boot, like legitimately I got 3 walking boots downstairs right now today. Like, because I stepped off a curb wrong. That's how old it makes you feel. So I do understand what you're saying, but it can impact people differently. And I want to just be clear in saying, like, I'm not
going to pick on them. I'm just saying, like, everything hurts bad when you're losing. Like, you know what plantar fasciitis doesn't come into account when you're 3-0.
Ooh,
when you're winning,
you're gonna play through that.
You know what I'm saying? Thank you. That's what I'm trying to. If we were in a situation. You could play through plantar fasciitis. You tell me you got a torn Achilles. Okay, fine. That sucks. I don't know what that's like. Like that's basically
that man got paid and was like, my foot hurt. I'm like, hey,
yeah,
my foot hurt. Let me just.
It's the football. It's the foot equivalent of having jumper's knee, a bursitis. It's man. You pop some Advil, man. You get that linebacker. This is what we got. That's really where wide receiver got plantar fasciitis. I expect. Okay,
my boy said he got shin splints. Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Like this is my problem. We ain't got no. The problem is we got a bunch of cats. We ain't got no dogs, man.
Oh, but that's one of the leaders of your defense right there.
That's what I'm saying. Just imagine. You said it. I didn't. One of the leaders of our defense, man. What's going on? Hey, man. Okay, Ed Reed, Miami, 0-1. I'm hurt, dog. I'm hurt. But I'm gonna get out there. I'm gonna get it. I'm hurt. I got plantar fasciitis, man. I'll see y'all in 3 weeks, dog. I'm not saying he's not really got plantar fasciitis. I believe he has it.
Right.
But I believe you got to give me a needle and give me a game, dog. Like, you got to give me something.
Right.
It's tough because now you're not obviously you're not 3 deep at corner. I don't believe we're deep at linebacker either. Because now we got to put the Pilgrim back there, right? That means we got Lloyd.
Actually, so they're going with Ventrell Miller. I thought that was interesting.
Okay.
Doug said that in today's presser, which that threw everybody for a loop. I'm like, wait, did he say Ventrell? He's like, yeah, I thought he was gonna go with Muma, and they were like, nah. They're gonna go with Ventrell Miller and see what happens there. Maybe Chad Muma will get an increase in snaps, overall, because they still did that whole rotation thing, which Doug today said they'll be doing a little bit less of, but. Hey man, we'll see. I don't know what that's gonna look like, but I guess it sounds like they have some kind of a plan. We don't know if it's a good one or not, but we're gonna find out together.
You were at the press conference, right?
Yeah.
So what was the mood of the press conference? What was that? Because a lot of people right now are asking. We have somebody's sources. It's always a source, but common sense says that Shad Khan wasn't happy. Like, you don't even need a source. That's what I'm gonna start doing. I'm gonna say common sense says. This is what's happening right here. Shad didn't become a billionaire by accepting mediocrity. Right. But what was the mood of the press conference? What were some things that were notable that Doug said?
Well, it was weird though, because that was actually part of the conversation, not before the press conference started, because everybody in the media was kind of having their own conversations, basically summarizing, hey, how do you think that? How do you think this happened? How do you think that happened? And the consensus across everyone in the media was like. After the game, was probably Doug's best, like most joyful looking. I don't even say he was joyful, but he wasn't pissed. You like just mannerisms, just looking at his face, just seeing how he acted after the game, and yesterday's press conference, and today honestly was the same thing. He didn't seem angry, didn't seem pissed. It just kind of seemed like it's what it was. And then when we asked Doug in today's presser, hey, was this just an easier kind of game tape or an easier game to just flush and just kind of move on to the next one because it wasn't close? There was you didn't feel like you lost the game, basically. I'm putting this in my own words. And he basically kind of agreed with like, yeah, this is an easier one where you can just burn the tape because it was lost from the start. And it really was in so many ways. Again, we were approaching NFL records for consecutive drives with touchdowns given up on defense. Offense can't get nothing started. I mean, you got 34-3 at halftime. What we talking about? This ain't a game at this point. This is a kid. This you playing football with your kids. They can't tackle you. Like, you know what this is, unless you're getting old and it's time to hang them up. But no, that's what that is. So I think that's what it was. That the mood was fine, which was weird to me, but I understood it. It was just like the first 2 weeks they felt like they lost the games, and this Monday it felt like they got their behind whooped. Like it was just different. So there was no coaching issue. There's no change I could have made, and it would have gotten like the time for rah-rah speeches and all that is done. This is all game plan, and all the guys just getting their ass whooped on field.
I'll say this: it's very easy to bash the defense that doesn't stop that doesn't even pinch the bitch, as I like to say. But offensively, we laid an egg, and it may be time to have difficult conversations.
Let's have difficult conversations. Yeah, what are these conversations?
Now, I'm going to get my guy on this channel, and I'm going to hold him to task because back in the good old 10-10 Excel days, we had a very good conversation. Our last real year was when we tanked for Trevor. Yeah. And I said I don't like that idea. I said I don't like the idea of bringing in a quarterback with no weapons. I like using our resources to be able to put things around somebody, and then it doesn't matter who your quarterback is. And I made the case, and I went through a lot of the different Super Bowl champions over the last 20 years, including somebody that we would call the greatest quarterback of all time in Tom Brady. But when you really look at outside of the Bucs win, Tom Brady's early Super Bowls were won by him not turning the ball over, great defense, and amazing special team. Yep. If you look at the Baltimore Ravens, if you look at the New York Giants, if you look at a lot of the different teams, their makeups aren't just necessarily dynamic quarterbacks. They have good players around them. Even the Jags teams that everybody loves. Go look at Mark Brunell's stats. Mark Brunell was damn near a 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. But they ran the ball very well, and their defenses were great. So Trevor Lawrence, and they use this on, I don't like Emmanuel Achu, and I definitely don't like Shady. But I'm with you, and this is what made me hate Achu even more, or however you say his name. Because Nigerian steal.
Acho.
I'm just joking. That's a joke. But he stole a joke verbatim, word for word, bar for bar, and did not give Cat Williams his credit for it. But it was true. We were told that Trevor Lawrence was a Rolls Royce. He was a Phantom. But a Chrysler 300 looks like a Phantom until a Phantom shows up. We saw what a Phantom was in Josh Allen. You saw what the Chrysler 300 was. Now, it's a nice car. It's just not going to win. It's not going to win you over with the ladies when the Phantom comes in. Is it time for us to truly start, forget the golden boy, forget the pretty hair, forget all of the other stuff? Is it time for us to maybe rough him up a little bit in the media a little bit more than we do? Because I have Brian Thomas Jr. on my fantasy team. And for him to completely miss him, wide booty butt naked open, and throw it to the Walking Dead in Hamlin is inexcusable. And I really go back. Was it Calvin Ridley's fault for not ever getting his feet inbounds in the back of the end zone? Or was it because Trevor Lawrence has terrible ball placement?
Nah, So we can have two different conversations and
Okay, I mean
still
just
keep this thing reasonable. So
okay.
let's leave Calvin to the side because Calvin was a different thing, and I want to just focus on Trevor and
Okay, that's
himself
yeah.
first. All right, so Trev, the media rightfully should be hard on him, but I want to make sure if we're being hard on him, we got to be tape watchers. And a lot of people in the media are not tape watchers. A lot of people in the media are just trying to get them clicks. And I need to
Mhm.
be real about that and just say, like, if you're gonna be somebody who's gonna be critical of him, tell me exactly why. Don't give me a sound bite and don't have no tape to show.
Okay.
Give me a sound bite and pair that with the tape and show me how this is how you right, how you wrong, whatever the issues are. Cool, we can do that. But if you're giving me just a sound bite, I'm gonna tell you full of. I'm just gonna be real with you. Like that's kind of what it is. But so Trevor has his problems, but the unfortunate part about this is Trevor's probably the third to fourth problem on this team if I had to list them in terms of importance. And it all starts with Trent Baalke. I mean, if we want to be real, it starts with Shad to Trent Baalke because of the way that they've done this whole ownership, arrangement, I guess, since Doug and Shad are technically even. So we start with Shad, and then you can kind of go to Trent, and you can kind of go to Doug. And as far as his scheme is concerned, because again, his scheme has kind of changed, even though if you were to ask him, he'll tell you that my scheme is the same base scheme. We've just made some adjustments in different packages and everything else. And I'm like, that's technically accurate, but also kind of disingenuous. Like, I know what I'm watching. I know what the data tells me. I know what yeah, you got some of the same plays generally, but you calling this way more, like you calling play action, and for instance, this year, way more than you ever called play action in previous years. You're running under center way more than you ever ran under center previous years. Like, obviously, this ain't the same offense. It's way different in a lot of ways. And Trevor, well, historically ran most of his offenses from shotgun. It's gonna be a little bit different. So some of the struggles you might see with Trevor is like, okay, I understand why that's happening at least. It sucks that it's happening because this is different. Like I feel like this scheme might not be great for you, but it was a simple scheme that Doug gave you initially and it worked for you in 2022. Why is it not working in 2024? Because it ain't the same damn thing. Like it is, but it ain't. And that's kind of what I was saying. Like, and we're all kind of resting our morals, resting our laurels on 2022. It's gonna come back to 2022. 2022, the second half of the season, after he figured out what the offense was, everything was great. And we forget that the first half of 2022 happened. Like, the first half of 2022 was rough. Us watching him trying to figure out what he can and can't do with the ball, Trevor Lawrence, that is. And then in the second half of the season, you saw a boatload of games where the team was getting beat down, was getting the mollywops, beat off of him in the first half of a game, and they would get to halftime, they would get to the third quarter and start running a lot of hurry up offense and coming back. Well, what is hurry up offense? That's the quarterback calling the plays from the line of scrimmage. That's not the coach. That's the same general plays, but that's me saying I know better, and I'm not running what's in your scheme. I'm not letting you run this. I'm running this because I can see what's going on the field. It's no different than the Chargers game in 2022. People don't know. Press Taylor called that play. Well, Press Taylor was calling plays after halftime, but Press Taylor called that play, and Trevor audible to the touchdown to Zay Jones. And when they were spamming him with those three wide receiver sets and those post routes across the back of the field, that's like playing Madden. Anybody who's ever played Madden against certain coverages, you see they in this coverage. I'm gonna keep running this all day until they stop it. That was
Mhm.
Trevor making audibles. That was him. That's not so. At the end of the day, you're saying, "Dang, is he not good in this scheme? Have we never just noticed it because he had the ability to make changes, or in crunch time he could just run hurry up offense and just kind of just come back, and we all just forget what happened, that the fact that the comeback was needed, and the scheme just got worse and worse and worse over these last 3 years. So if I'm looking at all this, I'm like, yeah, Trevor ain't perfect. Trevor's actually a problem in a lot of ways. Like he has some serious weaknesses, but at the end of the day, is he generational? No. But is he an above average quarterback? I think he has the skills and the traits, and he just needs help with the scheme and the X's and O's part of learning what they want this scheme to be in 2024 versus what it was in 2022. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. I just think the hard part is we're going into year 4 with him. This is year
And
4 for him,
and that's the part
and
that sucks, man.
and year 3 under the same coordinator and same issues. So it's like, and they hired so many quarterback guys in the beginning that can
And they
speak
kept
the
losing them.
language. That can
And they
that can.
kept losing them over and over and over. And I think that was a strength of them at the start of this thing.
Mhm.
They had multiple different. They lost the passing game coordinator. I believe it was 3 years straight. different passing game coordinators to other teams, and I'm just like, dude, like the benefit of them was having these other guys in the room that weren't named Press Taylor, that weren't named Doug Peterson, because they can give you other things that you can add to your playbook, and you can kind of be a little different, half by half, game by game, whatever it may be, and you have more voices in the room that kind of make you different. They ain't got that no more. I mean, you got Mike McCoy, sure, but yeah, he's fine, but he's obviously not to the level of the previous guys. Like when we had Jim Bob Cooter, like obviously it was different, and you had more and or maybe even better voices in the room. And now you're just trying to do this whole Andy Reid thing where that offensive scheme don't work in Kansas City unless you have a magician. Let's be clear on this. Kansas City scheme works because they have Pat Mahomes running it. Like that scheme. And he's not even playing well right now. They're just playing great defense and running the ball real solid. Like even then, that's what I'm saying. Like, and you're putting Trevor in that situation where he has to carry that, and he ain't a magician. I would closer compare Trevor Lawrence to someone like Brock Purdy than I would compare him to somebody like Pat Mahomes, if that makes sense. And that's not a knock on him.
No, which I think but it goes back to what I was saying. Brock Purdy's strength is he's a 1980s point guard in the NBA. Your job isn't to win the game. Your job is to distribute the ball to the true two guard, the shooting guard. Remember, they used to have I used to say names mean something. The shooting guard's job was to shoot. Wasn't the point guard's job. The point guard's job was to run, was to push things, get things to where you need to get to them, bang it into the center, which would be your tight end. Do different things, and then in clutch time, when they backed off of you and they got everybody, you can knock down that three. Like that's really what we need, and that's what Brock Purdy is. Brock Purdy doesn't have to win.
Purdy's that guy. Purdy's that guy. You catch him on occasion, he gonna have them overthrows. He's gonna have them little weird throws, and then they gonna reel him in with their run game because they got a really, really, really good run game. Again, these are all things that Jacksonville just don't got, man.
Which brings me to the thing that I love the most, which is the run game. I told people again, I love my boy Wig. Wig is my homie, but we be talking about some things, and I haven't been wrong about a draft pick yet. Now. What happens is when it happens, you got to be happy about it. But I'm like, you can ask Wig about my thoughts on Walker. Everybody can ask Wig about my thoughts on Travis Etienne. It's not that Travis Etienne isn't good. It's that you can get a running back between the 3rd and the 5th round. You don't waste a first-round draft pick on a running back when you've seen what we've had. James Robinson, not drafted, better running back, giving us more production when it matters. Tank. I'm listening. If you ask me who I would prefer right now, give me Tank. Give me the other. I can't think of the other one's name. He's actually
Dearness Johnson was a bowler in Cleveland, and we've never given him an opportunity.
I'm sitting here looking at Travis Etienne is a playmaker in space. He's more of a slot receiver than he is a running back. And when you look at the way, and I joke with people, I was hurt because his first year, obviously. He had the injury, which, again, wasted a year. Yeah. The second year, I've seen him devastate Florida State for 4 years. I've seen him in the open field make people miss and score. To come to the NFL and not be able to dodge a light bulb. And it was disheartening to see this. But, like, you don't have the running game, but I'm not going to always just put it all on him. I'm going to put it also on how he divvied up the money across the offensive line. You go and you get a veteran in the middle at center. You're kind of. I understand why you paid Cam, but at the same time, I don't. Well, it's because he's young. He's a left tackle. He would have commanded the price in free agency. Kind of the same way that my buddy who always jumps off sides, and now he's with Kansas City but got a Super Bowl.
Juwan Taylor,
Juwan Taylor. Same thing with him. You got Anton over there. You got these guys that just never. The most aggressive thing I've ever seen Cam Robinson do was buck up Demia O'Brien during training camp a couple years ago when she asked if they were bringing in Walker Little to replace him. That's the most aggressive thing that I've seen him do is go after a petite pumpkin spice. That's my sister. She actually put up about her love of pumpkin spice. But you went after the pumpkin spice princess, but you won't block the grown-ass men on the football field.
I
I
mean,
have
the
a
right plan,
serious problem with
the
our offensive
obvious
line.
right man, the obvious right answer would have been to just start Rock a little and to start the rebuild. And if you end up having to draft a guy, so be another guy at left tackle or move Anton over to the left tackle, then so be it. That was obviously and always the right decision. And I know we got questions on Walker Little even after what we just saw him. You know, he stepped in for Anton at right tackle this past game for like 2 drives and gave up 2 sacks and 2 false start penalties. So he ain't having the best go of it either on Monday. But overall, you still that was the obviously the right route. Like obviously there are some moves that they've made that's just like, hey man, you obviously have to do this. You obviously have to start Chad Muma or Ventrell instead of extending Foye. And I love Foye. But if that's your plan, then you obviously have to do this, or your plan is failing. Like you're failing because you're not drafting right, you're not developing right, and you just keep spending this money on free agency and not getting anything back for it. And it's the same thing applies to that offensive line. You drafted Luke Fortner as your 3rd round center. It didn't work, and you end up having to spend free agent money to bring in Mitch Morris, who's been fine. Honestly, he's been probably if not the best, no, he's probably the best offensive lineman right now, as far as how he's performed, and that's fine. But again, it's only happening because you're failing at drafting across the board, and you haven't even drafted a guard in your time in Jacksonville, Trent Baalke, like in the first 4 rounds. I mean, like somebody who you reasonably expect to start. You haven't done that, so you haven't invested. The one thing you've invested in is probably the best unit on this Jacksonville Jaguars team, and that's linebacker. They've drafted more linebackers than anything else, and the best linebacker of the bunch is the free agent you brought in, Houseway. How? Like after all that's the most unfortunate part of all this build. It has no identity. And to your original earlier point on Travis Etienne, maybe not being necessarily the best running back of the bunch, I kind of halfway agree with you. Like, but he don't gotta be. Like if you're a team that has an identity and a team that has a solid offensive line build where your head coach and your GM are in lockstep, you can build something that works right as far as your running game. I mean, the Detroit Lions literally are showing you the blueprint. They've built an offensive line. They got Gibbs and they got Montgomery, both two dudes that are absolutely way different at running back. You tell me how that's significantly different than Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne. Bixby's your Montgomery. ETN's your Gibbs, and you use them in the exact same ways. Like this ain't hard, man. They got Emron, they got ASB out there playing the slot. That's Christian Kirk in a lot of ways. They are showing you when you have an identity and you have a focus on what your offense should look like in your brain. This ain't hard, but we make it so hard because we can't chew gum and walk.
Mm. It's tough, man. We got some things that are quite interesting. You know, a lot of times people don't leave when they leave one fan base. You know, nobody ever truly fully likes it. But you got a little bit of reading material here
Reasons. Whew.
from Reddit. But this is after the team he won the Super Bowl with. So what were the reasons why the Doug Peterson was the right move? Refusal to change. One of the biggest assets as a head coach can bring in the NFL is the ability to adapt and keep up with the times. Peterson had multiple opportunities to do this. Even the average fan noticed how stale and vanilla 2007 like West Coast offense what we were running was. This dragged on for 3 years. Peterson had the ability to suggest meaningful changes that would make our offense more innovative and exciting. He insisted, pitched to promote failing staff to position way above their heads. In one last meeting, if he wanted, he could have changed his mind and set out to explore other offensive minds to evolve to the times. He refused. Failure happens in coaching sometimes. Pete Carroll was certainly disappointed about how their season finished, but the Seahawks changed it up. Do we see any similarities there with us in that manner? Obviously, he changed the defensive coordinator, but it doesn't seem like the offense has got the seasoning that we need.
That's wild. Like I hadn't seen this, so this is my real reaction on like, wow.
So
Yeah,
can we say one feels a little familiar? Is that fair?
My gosh.
I'm not saying fire Doug, but I'm just saying this is what they wrote when he went out. So, I mean,
but I don't want to harp on Doug because if we do so much conversation harping on Doug, then we will miss the forest from the trees, man. And again, I'm with you that this should be looked at because Lord, this is close. This hits close to
Yeah.
home right now, man, for the
Second
same
one.
guy. But
Second
that's
one.
not. But that's not so different than Trent Baalke always having the same issues that he's always had. It's no different than Shad Khan having the exact same issues because he's stuck in yesteryear in the
I don't
NFL.
think Trent. I think Trent's dead man walking. We can't get
You
rid
think
of
so?
Shot. The
Ballou
Trent.
don't. Rick Ballou thinks that Trent is gonna be the only one they keep on.
I don't listen to
He said
Tips.
it yesterday.
You hear me? I like Rick. Rick's my guy, but I don't listen to Tips and stuff. They also said that the old man Coughlin was going to be the magic man, and sometimes we get stuck in the thing about to quote one of my favorite shows, The Wire. The thing about the old days,
Yeah.
them was the old days, and they just caught sometimes in that stuff. The second one, injuries. Whew.
His O line. He had at the time when he was in Philly, and the year after they won the Super Bowl, at that time it was an NFL record how many different combinations of offensive linemen, how many offensive line combinations they had because of injuries that season. That sounds very similar to last season because at the time I believe it was 18 different starting combinations, and the Jacksonville Jaguars had 16 last year. Like
So,
that's way similar.
number 3. We just talked about the quarterback, the regression of Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz, and that was a regression after getting an extension, after getting paid. And it's the same regression after getting paid, and we could argue that we're seeing with Trevor Lawrence. But that's what I was saying earlier, man. They're trying to change the offense. It just ain't good changes. And again, all the people who are certified ball watchers, who are certified tape watchers that I can name: Brett Coleman, Nate Tice, Ben, what is it, Solak? Like all those guys have all broken down at one point or another in these first 3 weeks, some different game tape of the Jaguars, and been like, I don't know what the hell they doing. People who I know I trust on football, analytics, football schemes, and everything else, just like I don't understand this scheme at all. Like I don't know what you're going for.
Are you sure you haven't read this? Because you went right to number 4. Randomized play calling. It seemed like at points, like a teenager playing Madden was calling our offense.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go ahead and skip to the 5th one because you said it was probably one of the better press conferences post-game press conferences, and it was all smiles and Hallmark cards. But number 5, that's a trait of somebody who kind of don't want to be here. Like, so they said
who kind of checked out.
I'm hoping that that's not the case. But I just thought that was very interesting considering what had been going on with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I thought that was
But we're still back to the original point of what do we do? Like we can't do anything about it, to be clear, because this is all Shad's. This is Shad's baby. It's gonna go wherever he wants it to go. But let's say tomorrow he fires Doug, and the same day he fires Trent. Cool. What does that mean? Like, what does? Dang, Mike. All right. Now you my boy, man.
Mike, you lucky because I don't take comments from Twitter. You have to go on the YouTube, but that was funny. I had to put it up there, Tom. I had to put it up there.
But no, I'm saying, like, at the end of all of it, we know Shad Khan, the owner, and he's a better owner than he was when he started. I actually got to give him credit on that. He does all the things you want him to do. He pays the money, he stays the heck out of the way, and he lets you kind of just do your thing. But also in the hirings that he's made consistently have shown me one thing, that he is stuck in the old days. He is not hiring like these organizations and these groups to kind of just give me all the best prospects and kind of figure that out. He's like, nah, I'm gonna do this half move. I want Trent Baalke because he helped build up the 49ers, forgetting the fact that nobody else would have hired Trent at that time. I want to hire Urban Meyer because he's the guy we have to have because he's a certified winner. I mean, and that was questionable. But that's, again, we stuck in the old days. I want to hire Tom Coughlin because, hey, man, that's what everybody's telling me I should be doing. All these moves are all based on yesteryear. Find me the up-and-coming dude. Like, and that's what I have not seen from him, and I'm just waiting to see, like, if he fires all these guys tomorrow, are we hiring someone that's closer to a Doug Marrone? Or are we hiring somebody who's who's an unnamed person that I'm looking forward to seeing them grow? That their arrow is pointing up, and I don't have that confidence right now based on everything that's been done in this past decade.
Oof. I'm gonna walk you down um some more some more conspiracy theory lane here just for fun.
Conspiracy theory.
Um I'm with you. We can't just put it all on Doug. Actually, I think I got the wrong one. Damn it, that's not what I wanted.
The one on the right, the three
Yeah,
all
yeah, here
NBA
we go.
teams.
Yeah, hold on. Let's click on this. Do you know what these guys have in common? Affiliation
Oh
with a Taylor.
man.
The Bengals head coach is Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor happens to be the brother of Press Taylor. The Titans head coach was Zach Taylor's offensive coordinator in Cincy. We have to get, in order to win and be successful in the NFL, you have to get rid of all people named Taylor. It's kind of like this. You know what I used to say, and I love actually Dave Caldwell is a really good friend of mine now. But I said because I talked to a girl and I had a very bad experience with a girl by the last name Caldwell. And I said, I don't trust nobody named Caldwell. I don't trust Caldwell Cigars. I don't trust David Caldwell. I don't trust Mike Caldwell. Once I got rid of all the Caldwells, my life got better. But maybe that's what the Jags need to do. Maybe he's got to get rid of Press. But I do think this, and this is, I don't like calling for people's jobs because it's more nuanced. Because at the end of the day,
Right.
every offensive play is designed to score. So if you execute it, it works. It doesn't matter. And every defensive play is designed to stop the offense from scoring. In theory, you can run goal line package against 5 wide receivers, and you should still be able to stop it if everybody does what they're coached to do. It's not optimal, but it should happen. But I am a firm believer in sometimes you have to get rid of people to straighten up and fly right. One of my favorite books is The Art of War. And in The Art of War, there's a part of the book where he goes to the king and he says, I can make anybody march in formation. I can make anybody disciplined. So the king says, here are my concubines. If you can make my concubines do simple military movements, I will entrust you with my army. He says, give me your 10 best concubines. He gets the 10 best concubines. He shows them what he wants them to do and teach the other concubines. They go and teach it. The women not taking it seriously. They laugh. He comes back. He brings them back together, re-shows them, gets the corrections. They go out there and they do it again. They still laugh and do not get it together. So what he does is he chops off the heads of all 10 of his favorite concubines, gets 10 more, shows them the instructions, and do you know what ended up happening? Everybody did what he asked them to do. The king got him. So sometimes you need to light a fire in somebody, and the only way to light a fire in them is to show that my willingness to get rid of people. And that comes from a leadership thing because obviously the message has gone to stale.
Right. But
and yes, Michael,
that's the problem.
this is
know.
perfect.
I don't know if he's ever going to do it. Wow. Jeez. I got no comment. You said it, bro. But man, yeah. Doug would never get rid of Press, and we know that back to Philly. Like if you and it doesn't change anything. Let's be clear. Firing Press changes nothing. It's
Right.
Doug's scheme. So if you're gonna fire Press, you may as well fire Doug at the same time. And I don't know if you're truly willing to do that. And then, but you might have to, because unless you believe that Press is going to run a different scheme, and it's quite possible Press could be his own person. He could be somebody who was built up under Doug, and maybe he'd be willing to do something different. But I don't know. I haven't seen that. That's sight unseen at that point. But yeah, Brian Callahan being the Titans OC and also being a first-time play caller, which was always set up to fail for me as far as the Titans head coach, because again, he was Zach's OC in Cincy, but Zach called plays, so he still wasn't calling plays even in Cincy. So all these guys kind of have somebody else kind of running the show other than maybe Zach. Zach Taylor is the only one out of the 3 people that you just named that's basically like somebody who consistently calls plays. I don't even know what to take from that as far as that family dinner, other than saying he's 1-0 against his brother since they beat us last year. Unfortunately. But hey, man, that's a wild. You got me going down that little rabbit trail like I'm in politics right now, man. I ain't seen none of this.
Nah, man, it's just funny when you see things. What happens is you try to when
Connect.
you don't have answers and it doesn't make sense, you try to rationalize, and that's where conspiracy theories are fun because it doesn't have to make sense for it to be a
Yeah,
conspiracy theory. It just you need to be able to link things together. But
you need to be
um,
close.
long story short, the Jags are more than likely going to start 0-4, and it's very difficult
Mm,
to have the end result should always be to make the playoffs.
yeah,
Um, hard to make the playoffs when a quarter of your season is in losses, and so now you have to have a run, you have to make a streak. But I will say this: after the Texans game, the remaining games are against teams. You have not the remaining, excuse me. You have a few games against teams that didn't make the playoffs. Your first four games are against teams that are outside of the Browns. That because the Browns are pretty miserable as well, but they're traditionally a little bit better. And
yeah.
this
So
after
going so
this
going
next
up
four
against
games, I
after
believe are
this Texans
winnable.
games, you got the Colts, you got the Bears, you got the Patriots. Like you got a chance to like legitimately, even if you lost against the Texans, you got a chance to legitimately land at 3-4 at week 7. Like the season ain't over at that point, especially with the fact that you don't even have to win all the games that we're talking about. You just got to
Which
win the
puts you in a
AFC South
position.
games.
Because what we used to say when we were on 10-10, while everybody else was preaching optimism, we were preaching realism. The
Yeah,
first thing we want to do is not talk about the draft in November. If we can play
yeah,
meaningful games in November, okay, whew, that means you're going to play meaningful games in December, which means
yeah.
you're good to go. Like we don't want to the goal is to just feel like you have a chance to be able to make the playoffs, and you do have you have four winnable games after this. But if you're able to come in there, play with some passion, sometimes mixing things up. The one thing about the NFL, and I get why people say it's scripted sometimes, things don't make sense. Like again,
Yeah.
I bet there's no way you could have told me Cleveland was going to come and play the way Cleveland played after the way Cleveland played the week before. And then
Yeah.
Cleveland has a left tackle. It's so bad that they have a highlight, the low lights of their left tackle that they paid a bunch of money to, not
Yeah.
blocking anybody.
I mean, but if you just
He
look at
blocked.
the
He blocked
games,
us.
you just look at the other games that the Dolphins played and the other games that the Browns played, and they don't look like they don't belong the same. They don't look like they're a team that deserves a victory this season. But both of them teams beat the Jaguars, and it was just like because that's how bad the Jaguars have been playing. If the Jaguars played the Carolina Panthers tomorrow, I honestly feel like
Be
the
a
Carolina
dog.
Panthers would win.
Well, with Andy Dalton coming in, like that kind of threw everything off. But if we
That's
had
my point.
If Bryce Young was playing, I think we'd
I
have a
mean,
good shot.
maybe, sure, but
Bryce
that's all
Young
the
is
20, that's 2023 all over again.
yeah,
Just
Bryce Young is
stacking up.
Bryce Young is crying on the football. When I saw him crying on the football field, I said he needs a mental health day. Which is what I
So
said. I would have much rather the linebacker say he needs a mental health day than say plants
yeah.
are fashion.
So if the Jaguars did fire somebody, I could legitimately like taking the example from the team that just beat the brakes off of them, taking the examples from the Bills when they fired the offensive coordinator in the week after the Jaguars beat them in London, and all of a sudden they start going on this run because actually it was very similar because the Bills couldn't. They were struggling on third down conversions throughout the first half of the season, and they said it was a problem with their offense, and they just couldn't get it right, and they needed to go with a different coordinator. And that's very similar to the Jaguars, who are struggling on third downs. They're top of the league in explosive plays, and they just need a new scheme, a new plan, and they need to be able to establish the run game. Wow, that's very similar to the Jaguar situation right now. So maybe if you did get rid of the coach, maybe if you did get rid of the offensive coordinator, and you just simply got a new voice, a new scheme, Mike McCoy, whoever it may be, as far as figuring out the offensive scheme for the Jaguars, maybe you have a chance of righting that ship and trying to win 4 or maybe even 5 of the 6 AFC South games you have remaining on the schedule, and that would get you into the playoffs. And now I don't want to talk about playoffs, but I'm just being real. There is an example that we just saw last year of that happening. Texans off isn't looking hot right now. They're the opposite of the Jaguars, not playing well and sneaking wins. Jags aren't playing well and losing. But the Jags seem like everybody's get right game. You
It
damn
does.
right. I mean that's it.
there's a quote: "Good teams find ways to win, and bad teams always find a way to lose." And that just seems Jags just lost the kid. Did we win the coin toss? I don't think Jags won anything. Like they didn't have they didn't win 1 minute of football against the Bills. But the other two games, I believe they found ways to lose the game. So
but personnel wise, do you think this is a 500 team?
Yes.
No, F500. Just say 8 and 9. Do you think
Yes.
this is an 8 and 9 team?
I think so. I think you have a legit wide receiver who's going to become your number one. I call the number one wide receiver the guy that can take the top off of the defense. Brian Thomas Jr. is good enough to do that. You have Christian Kirk, who's his entire career has been an elite number two, which I don't know why they brought him over here thinking he was going to be something that he wasn't. But it's nothing wrong with being the number two wide receiver. You need that guy. Gabe Davis is another one that can make the tough catches across the middle. Well, that's what you were hoping, but even Trevor figures out ways to overthrow him. If Evan Ingram were healthy, I think you have a much different. You have a safety valve and a tight end that he feels good about. You got good enough running backs. Your offensive line is not great, but again, if your quarterback knows when to get rid of the ball and has an understanding of what the offense wants to do, which you should have in year 4, you would be in a better situation. Where I'm scared for is the defense, and Michael brought up a good point. You've even made adjustments, but we haven't seen any of these guys. I've seen Mason Smith play. He's pretty damn good. You've got some guys that you like. If you a second and third round pick, right? Yeah. They're supposed to be on the field. Maybe you don't like. I believe your first three, even you can argue depending on how bad the team is. Actually, your first 3 should be not either starters or high contributors. Your 4th round guy should probably be a rotational guy that you feel can play some ball. And if this isn't happening, why are you picking these people? Because there's other guys.
That is my only frustration with Nielsen. Like that's not. I won't say only but if I'm gonna, that's my major frustration with Nielsen so far is the rotation up front. Is because I'm like, I don't need to see all these other guys. I needed you to treat me like every other NFL team would treat these players, and I need you to be starting Hamilton or Mason, whichever one you think is better. I'm assuming that would probably be Hamilton, and you giving him the snaps. And if he needs a breather or whatever, so if Armstead needs a breather, at the other tackle spot, cool. You put Mason there, and you just kind of have that thing rolling in that way. I need Josh Allen. I need Trevon Walker. I need them guys getting, I don't know, 90% of the snaps at edge. And I need you to just show me what your defense can do and not give the out of, hey man, this is a backup dude on the field. This is another dude. This was Yasir Abdullah or Lacey or whoever else was on the field at the time because you just happened to be rotating. Because that was the excuse I gave guys in preseason when I was evaluating the tape. Hey man, well these are other guys who are rotating. You ain't gonna see them in the season, so it should be fine when the season comes. And now these other guys are still getting 20%, 25%, whatever of the snap because they're trying to develop. Meanwhile, their job's on the line. I ain't at that. I ain't trying to develop for the next GM. I ain't trying to develop for the next DC. I want my job next year. I need to get this thing right, and I need to be giving these dudes 80% of the snaps. That's kind of what it is, Ryan.
Here's my thought, man. Like, if Balky is still the GM in Indianapolis, I'm going Operation Plant. I'm getting him in a Diddy party. I am snitching because what happens in Indianapolis if you go to the combine? The Indianapolis is basically the NFL's version of Las Vegas. What happens in Indy stays in Indy. Yeah, I am taking pictures. I am looking. We're gonna find some compromising stuff for Balky. We gotta get him up out of here, man. We gotta get him up out of here because I don't know what they're doing.
People in Shad's ear, man. We gotta get more people in Shad's ear. Like I don't know what to tell. Like at this point, he's had to hear it, and he's had to hear it from a lot of people. And he's still sticking with it. I don't know. I don't know what he's focusing. I don't know what's happening here. Unless he just don't want to pay the man for not being on the roster. And he's just like, I'm gonna give him to the end of his contract. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's we know billionaires and millionaires are cheap. Maybe that's it. He's like, hey, I ain't gonna pay this dude to just sit at home. He gonna be here doing this job. I don't care if he's doing it badly. He gonna be here doing it. He gonna be here clocking in.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
Well. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming here, giving us a talk. Tell everybody where they can find you at.
Oh yeah, you can find all of my writings covering the Jaguars, bigcatcountry.com. Just today put up the the summary of the presser for Doug Peterson, basically saying he still has confidence in the team. He don't think that that the guys are that they have a weak psyche. He just thinks they're a team that's in need of a spark, and he kind of gave us injury updates on a lot of the guys. So check that out. Also, we're putting up the post game, write-ups of the post game summaries after each game, and most weeks I will also list my, I guess, I don't know, musings, my thoughts, my everything that I saw, my notes from the game after I rewatched it, at midnight, 1 a.m. After the game is over. So check that out, next week. But Travis D. Holmes on Twitter, on all the socials. I'm very active talking Jags. So yeah, definitely hit me up.
And make sure you check the channel on YouTube. He does great breakdowns of the Jaguar stuff on their media group. I appreciate you taking the time with me, brother. And hopefully, I'll have Big Sarge who covers the Texans. We'll be talking about the breakdown.
When are you gonna next stop by a Jaguars game? Your seat is literally right next to mine. And I ain't been seeing you, bro.
I was supposed to be at the Browns game, but I wasn't there. I was at the preseason game, the last preseason game.
I know. I was waiting on you last week. I'm like, oh, they got James sitting right next to me. Let's go.
Yeah, I wasn't. I was coming back from seeing my alma mater lose. I got an award in Tallahassee. That's why for the Memphis game. So that's why I wasn't able to come back. But I'll be at almost all the home games. Typically, I'm in Tallahassee and driving over.
I was hyped. I was looking for you.
Listen, man, the food is better this year. I'll tell you that. Like it's like at least what I had. I think we had a taco bar, I believe. When I went, no, what did we have? We had we had shrimps. There was balling, man. That food was delicious. For the preseason game, and then the ice cream was good. The coffee, the old black ladies are so nice to me at the stadium. If we're gonna lose,
Miss Mary,
yeah. If I'm gonna lose, I better eat well. So, did you know that? Okay, so you got your credential. So check.
Yeah.
That gets you into the clubs, right?
I did know to get me into the clubs.
It gets you into the like the one with bump the other clubs, the one with the buffet and all that, man.
With the good food, with the good food. Yo, thank you for that, man. You just made my.
I found out 2 seasons ago when we went to the playoffs, right? So my son had tickets in the club because shout out to Mayor Curry. People treat my son better than they treat me. Yeah. So I come over there and I'm just looking at because the new credentials, the NFL is all super top secret now. You got to keep going through the little facial recognition thing and all that stuff. Yeah. But it used to just be a little card and it tell you your little things on it and you see it. And I was reading it and it said it allows access because there may be people that are in those places that you might need to interview.
That's fair.
So it gives you access to it. I don't need to interview nobody here. I just want some brisket. I need
to check out what this is and get some of that food. Yes, man.
Okay. So when you want to, because the halftime, when you want a good snack, you can go check out that one. So I'm just letting you know
this is past worth it. You just made my year, bro. Thank you for that.
Nah, man, I appreciate you coming on, brother. I will holler at you later. All right.
Yes, sir.
Make sure y'all check them out on the channel. Good stuff, man. Good content. Today, I'll be on Mark Rogers at 6. We'll be doing a football breakdown of the Cal game, FSU Cal game. Also, Trey will be on tonight with Trey's take of the FSU Cal game. Make sure y'all check my guy out. Outside of that, appreciate you guys for chopping it up with me. We'll see you next time I'm on.